Hey, Wizard World fans and X-Men fans. This is Byron Burton. I am a national award-winning journalist for The Hollywood Reporter and co-founder of Awards Focus and dear friend to these wonderful cast members we have with us today. I'd like to welcome everybody, if you could mute the video, the X-Men Animated Series Part 2 panel with acclaimed actress Alison Sealy-Smith, and then all the fellas, Mr. Britton, Larry Houston, Ron Rubin, and Cal Dodd himself. Welcome, guys.
It's Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Good to be here.
Great
to be here.
Great to be here. Yes.
You know, it's such a pleasure to finally get some of you guys together with the cast. Allison, this is our first formal grouping with you and everybody. It's such a pleasure, and Ron as well. I'd love to just start with Ron and Allison. When you got word about the series, what was your initial reaction? Was this through an agent? They said you might be right for this. What was the sort of circumstance?
Yeah, heard from my agent, had no idea what the X-Men were, didn't watch cartoons, had no idea what I was doing. But hey, let's go do this thing. I'm a working actress. I'd never done animation before. So it was great. I think that I had no idea what it was that I was going up for. I think I would have been maybe a little bit more intimidated had I known. But this was another gig. This was a gig. I'm a working actress. I'm gonna go out there and kill it because I need it. Because that's why I feed and I clothe my children. So and it was not a typical audition. I remember that. I remember not knowing what to do because you go in there and for they told me Storm is from North Africa. So I'm getting all those nice rounded, trying to get my Nigerian accent thing happening, really bad at it. And then I go in there and for the first time, there's a recording. So they can tell you, you don't have to listen to it, but if you want to listen to it, this is a recording of the actress who had done it before. There had been a previous actress. I think this one was Iona Morris. And I went, why on earth do they want me to listen to the actress who did this before? If they want a new actress, then, but then all of the people who were auditioning with me there were a lot of well-known actresses who came from Africa. And when I listened to the tape recording, there was no North African accent that I could discern, really. So my choice was, do I sound like the actress on the recording, or do I try to do this sort of more authentic continental accent? Lucky for me, I decided I was going to try to sound like Iona Morris, and I got it.
Yeah, for me, it was, I had been doing a lot of other kind of much more cartoony cartoons, cute little Care Bears and kind of, evil monsters and stuff. So this was a very different gig. So I think most of the actors, voice actors at the time in town went out for this. And, Marvel Comics and, Stan Lee, it wasn't the empire that it came to be. I had heard of them, but I wasn't that familiar with, what it was going to become. And for Morph, it was very interesting because they had me do all sorts of different voices. We had to find his voice, but also they had me do Gambits and Beasts and Wolverine. And I didn't know if I was auditioning for their parts, but I think I was just auditioning so that they could see that I could do different voices. And it was awesome. And it was very different. It was very, it was almost like a theater audition, or on camera as opposed to voice, because they got very real with the direction and going into the characters. But it was great, and who knew we would be here all these years later? So it was a great experience.
And Chris Britton, your character was alluded to by Larry when Larry, you just had found out that the series got a pickup, and so it changed your decision on how to end the first season. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, because the way the first season ended was Gina Scott on top of a hill discussing like getting married, having kids, and saying they didn't know what the future would hold for them, but they said we wouldn't have it any other way. You ended on long shot, sunset, and fade out. That was the end of the series. And literally, while we're in post-production, putting it all together, doing all the final touches, they said, you got to pick up for season 2, but you got to change that ending. And so literally in post-production, we had to move scenes around. And then the last line that the actors had was like, I think it was Gene saying, we don't know what the future holds. And then we manufactured like a computer screen with, lights flashing and stuff. And then we grabbed an engineer and we said, here, say this. We kind of made it up on the line, on the spot. And it was like, Sinister knows what the future holds. And we just had them say something, drop it into the show. We added a computer shadow, and that was it. And that's how we created the end of season 1.
Oh,
but
did you pay him?
I have no idea.
Did you pay the engineer?
Probably not. We're talking Saban here,
Gee, surprise. Oh, I thought you were talking Disney.
No, but we knew we had to cast a good voice. And so we knew we were going to cast a real actor. And that's how we got Chris Britton over there.
Oh, I never knew that. That's great.
Well, Chris, you've had a chance. Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, that's something most people wouldn't know. And they didn't know for like 20 years until I started talking about it. It was something that only I knew and a few other people.
So, Chris, I'd love to hear about your experience when you came in, but also I would like to have you bookend that with now that you've been seeing the episodes on Disney Plus and online and getting to revisit the work.
He's a fascinating character because he has a number of changes throughout the whole series, and a lot of it's in the final episode, in the final season. You see the doctor that he was, and his effort to develop a DNA to cure his wife, and how he became Mr. Sinister. And then how he joined forces with some of the X-Men. But for so much of the series, he's the perfect villain in so many ways. And but I love the way he evolved. And perhaps, Larry, you can fill me in on that. How he evolved as the season progressed. It was almost like you got his backstory as Mr. Sinister and how he became Mr. Sinister and the battles and his obsession with Jean Grey and
and Cyclops,
their DNA.
He was really obsessed of part of your backstory when we started the series in 1992. We had always been asking Marvel Comics New York, give us more information. Like, we didn't know anything about Wolverine's background. We didn't know anything about Sinister's background. We kind of kept forcing the issue of like, we need to know what motivates these characters so we can put it on the screen. And sometime before we got the go ahead to do Sinister's background, they finally did an issue and a couple of issues where they kind of like finalized how you came to be. And then we were able to put it into the show. But like, we didn't know. So we just had to go with what we had at the time. Even with Logan, we didn't have his backstory was like it was still evolving. And so until they told us in New York what it was, we had to sometimes just dance around it. Like we didn't even have Rogue's real name for the whole show. She was just Rogue all the time. We didn't know what the father's name was, the mother, and none of that stuff.
Yeah, well, so much of Sinister is in the those lines. It'd be easier if you don't resist.
Yes,
and less dangerous. It's kind of don't bother fighting me because you'll lose. And if you don't resist, it's just less dangerous.
That's great.
And the way that they told us back then in '92 was that pretty much you couldn't be hurt. But the only person that could hurt you was Cyclops. His beams are like kryptonite to Superman.
Yeah.
So his beams could actually be the only thing that could hurt you back then.
Yeah, then he could bring himself back together, though. That was the other interesting thing about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was fascinating because you treated the character like Dracula. You know, it's like Michael Keaton's Batman. He turned very powerfully because he couldn't move his neck. And so with Sinister, you have him coming in and out of darkness as sort of not killing your artist, but it gave it such a great effect. And I would say on top of the opening theme, which is so memorable and amazing, a couple of villains got themes, like Juggernaut got a theme, but Sinister had this 4-note tubular bell thing when he would step into the frame, and it was the perfect concoction for like the best villain, I thought.
Yeah, working with Saban, you know, I work with him to try and get every character with a signature a sound or music cue, so that it would precede their entrance, and you would be cued in. Oh, okay, this is Sinister. Oh, this is Magneto. This is Apocalypse. The thing is with Mr. Sinister, I was always a stickler for making sure the visuals were accurate, and so I wanted to use Sinister's costume as accurate as I could, but he had all of these lines and the crazy the cape and stuff and the ribbed lines and stuff. So and we didn't have a Disney budget, and so what I had to do was, with him, I tried to always have him walk in and out of black, like right about here, chest high. And if he was talking, you cut to someone talking. When you cut back to Sinister, he's over there. And then when you cut back, he's over there. And then when he finishes his dialogue, he's laughing, he just goes back into the blackness.
And there's I'm sorry to interrupt, Larry. No, I was just going to say there's such an obvious, interesting link with Sinister and Morph, because when Morph was left for dead, Sinister implanted the evil brain, and that started the evil Morph arc in the show, which was, awesome.
Yes, yeah.
That's
go ahead.
So true.
No, and I think you should have had for Wolverine's music, like, when they appeared, if they had their own music, Wolverine should have been, here's Logan, here's Johnny.
There you go.
Oh, God, that would be hilarious. Hey, they've got to do a musical, X-Men, the musical.
That would be pretty
good.
Good
Lord.
Awesome. Well, it's so funny because, we talked about the themes in the first panel about, friends of humanity who say no more mutants, and sort of the hate that we've somewhat seen, more tensions rising in society these days, with an analogy, but also Sinister's implantation of the thing in Morph, but also the way he would, sorry if I dropped off there, the way he would talk to Morph about how they left him for dead and manipulate him. It was very much a propaganda thing, this relationship that you'd formed. And I'm just curious what you guys thought when you were recording those lines, and that unique sort of, because you did save him. You can't deny that you saved his life, but the hold over him was very, very manipulative.
Yeah, there's quite, Morph went from kind of a happy-go-lucky, kind of a fun character to a very, very kind of dark, troubled, tormented soul. And Sinister had that hold over me. And I was, my brain was just going in two different directions. I part of it knew I was an X-Men and my loyalty was to the team, but part of me, I was abandoned and left to die and had been controlled by Sinister and others. So it was in those future seasons that Morph kind of took the evil arc. It got a lot deeper and a lot heavier for my character.
Oh yeah, and you for Morph, you have the fans to thank for you.
I heard. Tell the story.
When we got to pick up for the second season, they said, "Great." We said great, but he said we did a audience, talk to kids about what was their favorite character, and it was Morph. And they said, you got a second season, but you got to figure out a way to bring Morph back. And I was like,
wow,
okay. So we really didn't want to do like a death scene that was like, guess what? He wasn't dead. We brought him, one of those trick stories. But because in the first season, you were supposed to remain dead. But since they brought us back to the second season, we figured out, okay, how can we bring him back? And we were thinking about a villain who plays with biology. And it was Mr. Sinister. And so we figured, okay, we married those two together, and bring you back with PTSD and have some fun with it for a season.
Oh, I've never heard that. I knew this. I'd never realized the second season hinged on Morph.
Yes.
Wow. I was told by the writer that they wanted me to befriend Wolverine, right? Create that connection and then kill me off to show that they weren't playing, that they weren't fooling around here. And then there was an outcry from the fans to bring him back. Actually, the writer said, "You really effed up our story arc, like after season 1, because you had, you were written off." But that's I had never heard that before, Larry. That's awesome.
Yeah, the fans brought you back.
Awesome.
Larry,
thank you, fans.
How long did it take you to and everyone to create one episode?
Each episode from the creation, from when I received the script to when the kids start on the air, it's 9 months for one episode.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
It's still, back then it was still a labor intensive to do one episode. And so overseas in Korea, we would have I think it's like 5 studios we would have. So, Studio 1 would get episode 1, 2, 3, the second studio would get episode 2. And by the time you got back to 1 again, they would be finished with whatever they were doing and we could give them like show 6. And it just kept rotating that way. And that's how we got the season done.
Right.
It was all by hand. And that's why it took so much time.
Cal, you talked about when you first saw your character animated on Halloween night. It really impressed you and also impacted how you played the role. I'm curious if anyone else had a similar experience with that, sort of seeing their character. And Alison, you've just sort of revisited a lot of the great episodes this past month in preparation.
Yeah. I don't remember, because my big thing was that when we were recording, we didn't have a storyboard. So there was I didn't really get to see it. I mean, my whole experience through this was actually kind of a little weird, because I was so busy out in Stratford. I was doing Shakespeare at this point. And the only days that I had to come in and do this, my X-Men recordings, were on Mondays when the theaters were dark. And so because of that, because my schedule was so scrunched, I hardly ever had time to meet with anybody. None of the actors were in the studio. So I always felt like I was doing Storm a bit in a vacuum. And yes, when they did show me, pictures of who this woman was, then you start to really inhabit it. But it was so much of it was in the writing, and the writing was strong. The writing was solid. That's where it came from. As a theater actor, that was my first thing. Not the images, not the visual, but what do I do with these words? And the words were nice. They felt really good in my mouth as a Shakespearean actress, and that's where I got it from. And I also want to say real kudos to Dan Hennessy, who was a director on it, because you've got an actress alone in the studio who doesn't know animation, doesn't know the story, is not working with the other actors. There's none of that feeding in, that energy that you get from working with people. It was just me and the script and a microphone and Dan Hennessy, and that we managed to find that kind of layered depth to Storm is a testament, for me, doing it less the visuals than a fantastic script and a really good voice director.
She's a great example of how we got such great voice talents to be put into our shows. It was like lightning in a bottle to get all of these actors on one show at that time in the 90s. It just worked. You guys brought those characters to life, and the audience embraced it, and you guys put so much into it. I think that's equally, or if not more, the reason why the shows have lasted so long.
Yeah, that's the challenge here. That's the challenge for voice actors and everyone who was involved with this series and animation, is that many times you're not in the studio with the other performers.
Right.
And you don't have a full script. And the image of the character you have can give you some important information, but it's the text. And so the actor's challenge is to create the reality of the relationships within the characters that are on the page.
Right.
And so for the actor, that's what their job is to create that reality within their mind. It might not be totally, accurate as you find out when you actually see the whole episode, but you're in the ballpark, and sometimes you're right on, and sometimes there might be a little, you might look at it and say, maybe I just done that line. If I had done that line with just a little tweak there, I would have felt better about it. But that's the way animation and voice acting goes.
Yeah.
And I like the seeing it for the first time, because we had done like 7, 8 episodes before I even saw what he looked like. I mean, other than pictures. And then like Alison said, there were no storyboards or anything. When I saw him, it was like October, Halloween night of '92. I just went, I get it. I get this guy. And I just loved the way he looked and everything about it. It's just like, what? Oh, I wish I'd known that, to go back, to do, like you say, to do some lines over again. Look at this guy. He's too cool. Like, you were just going, as they all said, thanks to Dan Hennessy again, for creating in our brains what the story was, and like painting a picture in my head. And he would say, after a number of episodes, he'd say, what would he say there, Cal? What would Logan say there? I wasn't writing lines, but it was like, well, he just, 2 words or something. They'd say, perfect, say that. But it was so wonderful to see him finally, and it just opened my eyes like, not this guy. He is so cool.
You guys were able to inhabit the characters. You guys got it, which is great.
Yeah.
We're getting these fan questions come in, which is great. So this one here from Beatles Fangirl 15. This is for Alison and Cal. And I want to first lead in with this. Alison and Cal were part of the X-Men Spider-Man crossover. And number one, I'm curious, did you guys know that this was going to be a special thing on the other animated series at the time, or was it just another day of recording?
I was excited. I was very excited about it, because, but I thought we were going to be working with them and we would hear their voices, and when we initially started out, we had 5 or 6 of us in the studio together and bouncing off each other and stuff, which did not work for the engineer. He just said, there's leakage, there's spillage everywhere. This is not working. So as Alison said, we would come in one at a time and work for an hour and a half, whatever it took. And Dan drew pictures for you to thing. But what did I interrupt about?
The Spider-Man crossover. So geez, I love this. Well, with COVID, I don't know what day it is even. What is? So I thought we were going to have to, hear their voices and stuff. And no, it was just another script. And there you go. And this is Spider-Man. We did it. We never saw it. And then, no communication between them. And then, of course, when you see it, it's wonderful. But, we didn't. It was nothing special. It was just another episode.
Yeah, same here. It was another episode that we had to do. There might have been, another little thrill going through, but I just loved performing so much that, every day in front of the microphone was a great time. You're going to add the added adrenaline that this is going to be Spider-Man, sure, but it was another episode. It was more work. We liked it.
From Puzzlement 86, Mr. Chris Britton, sir, what is your favorite Sinister moment? And are you still scaring children with that voice? It sure scared me when I watched the show.
I would say, when he, one moment is when he introduces himself, when he says, my name is Sinister, Mr. Sinister. But also all of the episode of Descent. I just think that's for his character, sort of in the final season, where you follow his path, and he's fighting to save his wife, and wishes to do these DNA experiments, and the resistance against that, and all that stuff. And then, of course, the battle with Sinister and all the X-Men. Where that episode, I can't remember what it's called. Larry, do you remember when the big fight between everyone?
There's no battle, Bob.
We've had a couple. It could be the. Oh God, which one? Well,
it was the one where they're inside. I think Sinister's
Savage Land, chemical building,
right, Savage Land place.
And that's right. And I sort of, I'm shot with some laser, and I disappear into all these pieces, and then I come back together again, and all that.
Oh God, that's right. Yeah, the Savage Land
Yeah,
we had set up a subplot of we were telling an A storyline, but the B storyline was, let's see, Xavier and Magneto going through the Savage Land, and ending with you guys, with Sinister, capturing everybody.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And Ron, that was some of your best acting. I thought that was so great how you played the sort of moment of being ripped between both. And, Xavier in that particular scene, once Cyclops had appealed to you, but in that particular scene, I remember Xavier was talking to you telepathically and helped you join in the fight with Cyclops to blow up Sinister. That was just a fantastic voice performance.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Like I said, when Morph kind of had to get dark and go evil and was torn back and forth between the X-Men and Sinister, it was challenging. It was challenging as an actor, but it was so well written. And for the first little while, I just got to imitate and impersonate other voices. But during that scene, because I recently watched that, and I said, "Wow, that's not a bad scene. That was great with all of us." There's some good actors. Like, you got some great actors with some great writing, and it was a challenging script. And I love that scene. I remember when Morph was in the hotel room and kind of freaking out and screaming, and why did they leave me? And why did he leave me to die? I really had to kind of push myself. It was very different from the other cartoons that I was used to doing up until that point. It was so different at the time.
That's because this wasn't a cartoon, Bob. This was an animated series.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
What's the dog show you were talking about, Larry? The
Scooby-Doo
cartoon. Scooby-Doo. Yeah, this ain't no Scooby-Doo, Bob.
Yeah. Nope.
And then and it was the same with Avengers, although this is for X-Men, but Avengers was very similar as well when I was doing Vision. Anyway.
There was no X-Men.
Right. Yes.
Geeky fit.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Larry.
No, I was going to say my friend, his name's Ron Myrick. He's the one who, there was a Avengers done through Saban again. Mm-hmm. And I think you were you were playing the Vision on that show.
Yeah, I was the Vision for that, which was a very different sort of voice, and it was very understated. But still, it was beautifully written and challenging as well. That was we only did one season of that, but the Vision was a very cool part, one of my faves.
Yeah.
Geeky Fit Male, and I don't know if that's like a European name, Fit Male, or if this is a bodybuilder. I'm guessing maybe that. But Geeky Fit Male, question for everyone. What is the best thing you remember hearing from a fan that made you realize the impact the show had on people's lives?
For me, I think it was when all of us were at some conventions and hearing the testimonials coming to us. Like, there was one guy who was growing up, he was short, and he really latched onto Logan because, especially in the early episodes, like when Logan says, you like picking on people that are smaller than you. Well, I'm smaller than you, pick on me. And he just, Wolverine was fearless, but he what he conveyed to us was that this gave him a lot of courage and resolve to help him through that phase of his life. And listening to the testimonials is what I think was most gratifying, that we were at these kids, we were at a certain point in their lives, we were able to help them get over that certain part of their life so they could gain confidence and the critical thinking they needed to become a better person and to get past that point in life.
Yeah, well said, Larry. And I think, a lot of kids who didn't get accepted or weren't accepted for whatever reason, they saw the mutants not being accepted into society. And, at a lot of cons, I get people saying that, not only was that my childhood, but that really kind of supported me and helped me and gave me confidence because, I'm not accepted because I'm this, that, or the other thing. And it really hit people on a lot of different levels. It really
It did. Yeah.
I go ahead, Alison.
I just think, for me, what was really important, of course, was the fact that this was a Black superhero. And I think it really came home for me. We lived in Scarborough, and Scarborough is an extremely racially and culturally diverse neighborhood in Toronto. And I remember, my daughter's softball team, and all of a sudden I am surrounded by these kids, and they're in this circle around me, and they're just staring up into my face like this. It's like, oh my God, you're Storm. And I don't know if it was Storm, but there was also the fact that they were sitting right in front of somebody in real life who looked just like them and who played Storm. And it was I'd been getting, a fair amount of that even out in Stratford when you do the school shows, and, they bring the inner city schools out there, and, they see a Black woman playing Hippolyta. So there was, around that time, there was something really good to be said for the fact that there was a powerful superhero, Black superhero, and that there was, a Black woman playing that superhero. And that she lived in a place like Scarborough.
Yes. Yeah. You were the Uhura of the 90s.
Yeah.
Well, we had many. I mean, at the table, it's and I miss them so much. I miss the fans so much, and not being at the actual Comic-Cons. And there seemed to be an awful lot of autistic people and their children.
Yeah.
That just were drawn to the X-Men series for what you said about they pick a character they like, and Wolverine was short and didn't take trash from anyone, and that helped him. This guy, this man, he was about 24, 5, 6 maybe, and he brought his daughter who was about 10, maybe 9, and they were both dressed in black, and he had his claws on, and he came up to the table, and this happened a lot, but like this just blew me away. This couple, and he said. He just stopped, and he had dressed in black, and he did his speech. And at his speech, he said, I have to thank you for saving my life. I'm autistic, and so is my daughter here. And I was picked on all my life. And I could hardly wait to watch X-Men on Saturday mornings, Fox Kids. And because it just gave me hope. And we're not all the same. And it was just beautiful what he was saying. And he said, I just had to come up and say that. And that's after 2.5 to 3 minutes of him just emptying his guts. And I was like losing it. I just said, wow. He had the claws on. So I put my hand up to him. I said, I can't believe what you said. And that's just so wonderful. I'm so happy that I was even a part of that, of help. He said, oh no, you saved my life. And I put my hand out, and he took just the claw off, and he shook my hand. And with that, there was a woman off to the side. The two of them just flipped around and walked away from the table. And this woman came running over, and she's crying. And she said, I can't know how to thank you. I don't know what to say to you, but that's my husband, my daughter. And he has never, his autism, ever touched another person's hand, or never touched it. He had to shake your hand.
Wow.
That's a great story. Wow.
Yeah.
What kind of an impact is that?
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, we have Melissa Cintron that just said for Alison that representation truly matters. And there's a lot of gratitude to you for that story.
Thank you. Representation really, really matters. And, it's wonderful.
Larry, I'll give you a little praise too. Inkpot Award winner. That's very rare, a great distinction.
Yeah.
Larry's brilliance was always coming up with new ways to you made the show cinematic with I know Gladiator was supposed to just show up and punch somebody, and one of your thoughts was, no, he needs to come in, and we see his fist flying through the air like Superman.
Yeah.
And I want to tie in your sort of creative direction with Morph's best episode, which was a reunion, I think, or something like that. But I had Ron watch it recently, and it's just a great performance where he comes back to the X-Men, and he doesn't quite, feel like they think he's well from his trauma. And then, of course, the Sentinels show up in the episode, and he has sort of a setback, but he comes through in the end. And that whole ending you just devised, Larry, like on the fly. Can you talk about that?
Wow.
Yeah, the episode was called Courage
Courage. Yes.
For him. And he was, all of the X-Men go and they get captured by the Sentinels, and Morph is the only one that can save him. And so the way the script was written was that Morph, you come in and you have a ray gun and you're shooting the ray gun, and that was it. And so I created the entire sequence out of from my imagination, that when you get captured, you start showing your morphing abilities and how you're like one of the most powerful characters we got, because you morph into other characters that have physical power. And like you turn into Sasquatch, you turn into the Angel, you turn into Omega Red, and showcasing, even though you can change shape, you don't gain their power. So I had to mentally think about, okay, what characters can he morph into that have abilities of physicalities? And so I gave you this entire sequence so that people could see how powerful you were. And, that's one of the things as a director, I think that's one of the things I brought to the show, was that I brought my own fanboy, perspective to it, and knowing I just have a gut feeling what it is like to still be a boy reading this stuff, and I brought that when I went over every storyboard. I tried to say, okay, what can I do to the sequence to make it more exciting? And if I could make the little boy in me get excited when I'm changing stuff, it's like, yeah. Because if I get excited, if that little kid in me gets excited, it will translate to the audience out in the world. And
that's amazing.
That's how I gave you a way larger moment than what was written.
And I love you for that, Larry. I'm in awe of you. Thank you. Byron sent me that scene prior to this, and I saw it, but I did not know the backstory, what you did and what you created, and how you gave Morph all those changes and everything. So that was brilliant. Thank you.
Oh.
And Ron, while we're on Morph,
what's that?
David, while we're on Morph, David Leninsky said, Ron, could you please do the Morph laugh?
Well, the Morph laugh is interesting because when I first got the show, he was a little more happy-go-lucky, so the laugh went up. And so it kind of went up as Morph. And then when he entered the dark side, and Mr. Sinister put the evil brain into him, it became and it kind of went down. So basically there's two sides to Morph. Yeah. So thanks for the question.
There you go, David.
That's excellent.
Annie, who's watching from Poland, she said, you guys are our heroes. I would die if I could meet you in person. Have you ever met someone you were a fan of, and was it a positive experience?
I've been, through circumstances, I've been to Poland 3 times.
Wow.
That's such a lovely way to put it, through circumstances.
No,
Extradition?
Different shows.
I studied there, right? I studied theater and film there for a summer when I was at York University in the town of Łódź. And then I was flown there twice to work on the Peter Greenaway film Night Watching. The artistic community in Poland is one of the most remarkable in the world, I think. But Robin Williams, I would say I worked. I had 2 scenes with him in a film called Final Cut, and I left that experience with greater admiration for not only his talent, of course, but him as a human being. He was just a wonderful, wonderful, generous man. And Forrest Whitaker. he was a wonderful person as well. And, I had a few scenes. One scene, I had a gun to his head, which, but
being Mr. Sinister again.
yeah. Deacons for Defense was that film, but he was also, I have such great memories of him as a human being. Those were two that immediately just come to mind.
Mine was Maya Angelou. I mean, I'd read her stuff, so, and words, words for me are everything, right? I'm a text-based actor, and so here I am, and I'm auditioning for. I think it might have been the only film that she ever directed, which is Down in the Delta, and. I'm so nervous. Usually I'm not. I mean, there's this is what I do for a living, right? It's just another audition. But I mean, come on, this is Maya Angelou. I didn't get the role that I was auditioning for, but apparently she was so taken with me and she kept calling me Alison Sealy-Smith. And she gave me a really small role, and then she brought me back as an on-set coach for one of the young kids who was working on the show, and so that was amazing. That was amazing for me to work with her, and we'd sit down and we'd talk about moments that she wanted as a director, and I was just like I was awestruck. I don't do this. You meet so many people in this business, and it's work. Okay, so you're a better paid actor than I am. Fine, we can work together. I mean, that's all it is. But for Maya Angelou, it was a slightly different thing that was happening there.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible. We have people tuning in from Poland, Israel, Canada, all across the U.S. and Ireland. Yeah. Cal's got
Ireland.
You got Ireland. I'll take it.
Which two people from Ireland do you have there? You probably have. Do you have Daniel Fee there? Do you?
I believe Daniel is.
We all signed autographs for Daniel. Now that most of all the famous people that I met were all singers, except for Raymond Burr, and I met Raymond Burr doing the Alan Thicke show or the Alan Hamill show. I did both of them. So out in Vancouver, and he's a huge man, Raymond Burr. Anyway, we just hung out for a while and. I was singing, and he was, he's who he is. And the other ones are like I sang on Anne Murray's records, and I met Bo Diddley, Chubby Checker, Chuck Berry, Shaka Khan, and sang background for these people on the Blood, Sweat, and Tears Super Special. And, they're all just musicians and fun to be around. Are you kidding? They all smoke and drink. It was great.
Chris, it's funny that you mentioned Robin Williams because I had a chance to work with him too. But this is back in the 80s when I was doing stand-up comedy in New York. And I got to became somewhat friends with Robin. We were doing some clubs together and Billy Crystal and amazingly improvisational, beautiful, talented, gorgeous people. But like we all know, just, they're people, they're humans, they're actors like us.
Yeah, great documentary on Netflix on Robin Williams.
Yes, absolutely,
wonderful. Yeah,
his book is great too.
And the UK, our United Kingdom friends, Britain. The Everest pup wants to know if you guys have any funny moments with Norm. I know Chris Potter gave a great one in the first panel. Norm or Ron, could you do the censored version of the pig story?
Norm, God bless you. It was one of our first series we were doing. It was not a great cartoon series. It was called Pigsburg Pigs, and we all had to play pigs. And the director asked us to walk around the room as our characters, and I had never done that before or after. And we were all walking around like pigs. And this is Norm's very, very, very first cartoon. And I just remember him turning to me and he say, "What the F am I doing a pig? I went to broadcasting school for this. How's my pig? He kind of had to be there, but it was just Norm being Norm. Yeah. It's not a very funny story, but whatever.
Was his hair okay? Is my hair good?
Exactly, Cal.
My hair fine? Well, this is what we're talking about here. Cyclops, Norm Spencer.
That's Norm.
What a crazy sense of humor. Crazy sense of humor, that dude.
Well, I was doing a radio commercial with Norm back in the 80s, and he kept saying that to Cal. He kept saying, how's my hair? How's my hair? And I kept saying, Norm, it's radio. Yeah, but how's my hair?
And it was really thin anyway. I mean, I have hair. Norm is like just whitish, sort of gray, and just always sticking it back, make sure that's just right there. We were doing, what were we doing, Ron?
What?
Oh, no. We were all there. There's, like I said, there was like 4 or 5 of us in this thing in the studio doing an X-Men episode. And Dan said, do any of you guys do a Jack Nicholson?
That's right.
And Norm, and as you were saying, anytime you can get a bit part, you get paid half again for your regular pay. So everyone was eager to do those 1 or 2 lines as another character. And so Norm said, I can do that for you. He's standing right beside me, and I've just met him. Like I said, it's almost like the first or second episode, and we don't really know each other, except that I stole Chrysler from him, and he found that out. It's the only commercial it was the only commercial I had ever done up to that point. No voice work whatsoever, all singing. And my first commercial was Chrysler for 2 years. And Norm, when he found out, he said, "Oh, you're the one that stole it from me, are you?" Because he did it for years. So anyway, he does his Jack Nicholson line or his impersonation to people, and I just said, do you mind if I just read for that? Do you mind? Not too bad. So it won't take me long. So whatever the line was, I did it, and Norm just turned to me and said, "Oh, piss off." It was worse than that, but why don't you just? And he said, "Okay, it wasn't bad." And every time when I saw him, ever since I saw him, we would be called to the studio for the same voices because we'd have the deep, whatever, and the booming voices sound, and he'd always be there. And he was with our agency, and Ron, myself, and Norm. And as soon as I would walk into the studio, he'd be there, and he would just look at me, and go like, "Why do I even bother coming in?" But he was he's building me up, but he was so generous and funny that way. But at the same time, is my hair okay? Yes, your hair is okay. So funny.
I remember that day in the studio, Cal, because it was the first or second episode, so Morph was there, and I remember him doing his Jack Nicholson and you doing yours, and I do a good bad Jack Nicholson. I didn't even throw my hat into the ring, and he just looked at you after yours and said, "Why do I even bother?" or whatever. Yeah. It was hilarious.
Like he's always the poor baby. "Why do I even bother? I don't know why I come here." Oh, yeah. But anyway, that's our friend. This is Cyclops. Say good night. Good night, buddy.
Living the dream.
Yeah. Chris Britton, you talked about Descent with that being probably your favorite episode. I also loved when you and Beast teamed up as everybody was sort of being pandemicked, as you could say, the virus in that episode. It was great to see Sinister team up for the greater good.
Yeah, this is what I was referring to, and how he changes. Larry, you seem to have given Sinister, a whole range of allegiances and character development. Which was
Alison,
terrific.
Well, can you tell me your favorite episode you've seen now that you've been going back through?
Yes, well, it took a little while, because I'm a director as well as an actor, right? So I spent the first little while watching these episodes going, "Why'd you do it like that? I mean, just mellow, girl, mellow. Oh, no, punch it now, punch it." And so I wasn't really enjoying it. And then Savage Land, Savage Heart.
Yes.
I think it's season 3. And I love that, and it's there are a whole bunch of them that I saw, and I feel like going, I want to do them now. I understand a lot better now what I'm supposed to be doing with this role, and it's when she lets go, when she talks about how and it's just small p political. It's that whole Black woman having to keep their rage down in order to be socially accepted, and not to fall into the stereotype of the angry Black woman. And she tells Rogue, unlike you, I have to keep my powers in check so that they don't, so I can't let it go. And there was something about her rage and freedom. And I really liked that one. It's when I watched both of them without being too hard on myself. It was good. And it really reminded me how good the writing was on it. And thank you, Larry, for the themes that it took on, and the fact that I can see it now after not wanting to watch myself and go, okay, that was okay, but I mean, I could do an even better job now.
Well, maybe Disney will give you a chance.
Hey,
yeah, that would be great. And Larry, also thanks to you for doing the impressive new cast piece, which is available on the Wizard World store that everybody's going to sign if you order that. It's a completely original piece Larry did from scratch, which features Wolverine getting a little bloody with Sabretooth while the other X-Men face off with the Sentinel. That's really great.
Awesome.
It was fun. It was fun to revisit the characters and have some fun with it. And one thing I wanted to bring up, though, was you were talking before about meeting your heroes and actors and actresses. For me, my hero was the guy named Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, which are between the two of them created almost like 99% of all the Marvel characters out there. And I had a chance to go to meet Jack Kirby in person. I had a chance to go to his house, meet his wife and kids. And it was like, I was almost stunned into silence talking to him. But he was like my inspiration for all of the art that I did throughout the years since I grew up in South Central, single mom, and comic books and TV shows were my outlet. That was my entertainment. And that kept me inspired to do the stories that I drew and would read. And so meeting Jack Kirby and then eventually being hired by Stan Lee to work at Marvel Productions for like 10 years was the other thing. It's like, oh my God, I got Stan Lee. And he's like 2 doors down from my office and I could see him every day. It was like it was like a dream come true, and those are the two for me inspired me a lot. And I'm really glad I met both of those two individuals.
So are we.
So are we.
I've done 4 Stan Lee characters.
Yeah.
Shout out to Pindy for the question about favorite episodes. And just to rehash everything, guys, if you've been watching on the Twitch, the YouTube Live, the Facebook Live, if you go to any of those sites where the Wizard World is, you can also find their website link. Go to wizardworld.com or Wizard World Vault, and you can get one-on-one chats, autographs. You can do a group chat, or you can do the specialty piece done by Larry, signed by everyone, which is this great collector's item. I'm going to be getting one myself. I really want to thank Chris Britton, Alison Sealy-Smith, Larry Houston, Ron Rubin, and Cal Dodd for joining us in hour 2 of the X-Men animated series Comic-Con panel for Wizard World Virtual.
It's not over, is it?
We are wrapping
No, it's not.
Cal's going to be on.
Before you wrap up, I just want to give.
Maybe you didn't hear me. Perhaps you didn't hear me, pal.
Yeah, just want to give a shout out to my peeps in Barbados. Right, it's
I love Barbados,
and I just want to represent. Well, we talked about diversity and we talked about representation, and so before we go, I just want to represent Barbados. 246.
So well.
246. Excellent.
So long, Barbados. I love you. I was there 10 years in a row with my mom. Love it. Christchurch.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, baby.
Well, I know I speak for all the cast when we look forward to seeing you guys at these events in person again very soon. And in the meantime, we will connect with you guys virtually. We're so glad for the comments. We can't wait to speak to you guys one-on-one. And yes, Starship Troopers is at 1 p.m. Pacific time today. Land of the Lost is at 3 p.m. Pacific time today. Then November 8th, we've got a Baywatch reunion with Wizard World virtual. November 9th, pinups, cosplayers, and is raising money for vets. And then on November 12th, last fan standing, of course, with Bruce Campbell. All lots of fun events. Guys, thanks for tuning in today. We so appreciate it. Hope you have a blessed Saturday. And Mutant Power.
Thank you.
Thanks, Byron.
Thanks, Byron.
This has been fun.
Larry, thanks for all the backstories. Appreciate it. They're awesome.
Love you
Wear your
guys.
mask.
This is John Glover, and you are watching Fandom Spotlight. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Lionel Luther recommends it. Have some fun. Follow your fandom.